I'm Leslie Owen.
And I'm Joe Owen, and we are the proprietors of Mountaineers Popcorn. We grow and produce yellow mushroom popcorn. Mushroom is a variety of popcorn. There's two varieties, mushroom and snowflake. And snowflake is bigger, and it's usually what you get at the theater. Mushroom is tighter and more flavorful. The kernels are a little bit smaller, but they're more dense and they're a lot more flavorful. We have a little one-row corn planter that we pull behind a garden tractor. With her pulling it, it's a very consistent speed and it lays the corn out just right. And we get about 30 rows. Mm-hmm. Yeah, about 30 rows of popcorn. From there, all you do is pray that your corn's going to come up and not get eaten by either deer or crows or whatever. Probably in mid-October, early November, we'll pick the corn. And what we do is we have a sled, and I have a rope I put around my waist, and I walk down between the rows, and I do one row at a time. Can't do two because you forget where you are. And I take each ear of corn, peel the husk back, twist it off and throw it in the sled, and I keep moving. And I just go back and forth until the sled is full, and I pull it over to the pickup truck and I empty the sled in the pickup truck and go back. Then it goes on the trampoline. We use a trampoline because if you know the texture of a trampoline mat, it's porous, it has holes. And so air will travel through it. So what we do is we spread the corn out on the trampoline and we put a box fan under it blowing straight up. If it just sits in its own moisture, it will get moldy. 24/7, that fan runs, and probably will run for anywhere from 40 to 90 days. And we test the moisture level with a moisture meter, a grain moisture meter. We take a sample of the corn, put it in the moisture meter, and it'll tell us what percentage is moisture. We shoot for 13.5%. 13.5% makes it where the popcorn is very lively and will pop well. Every corn cob is inspected, and if there are irregular kernels, a kernel that maybe a bug got on or something, each of us has a little tiny screwdriver, and we'll sit in an evening and just sit there popping bad kernels off of cobs and making a pile that we'll do the next day when we shell the corn. We have a corn sheller, and it's probably over 100 years old. And it looks like a little device of torture. It's got a crank that I turn, and I put the cobs in there, and it takes the kernels off the cob, spits the cob out one side. The kernels go everywhere into a box that we collect the corn, and then we winnow it. When the corn sheller knocks the corn kernels off the cob, it also knocks off little pieces of the cob. And it almost looks like snowflakes. It's very, very light. It's chaff, and so we have to get rid of that because you don't want that in your popcorn. And so we have a series of fans and a little chute with a grid on it that we run the corn down, and as the corn falls, the fans are forcing air through it, and it's blowing that really light chaff away, and the heavier corn falls down. And we measure out 2.5 cups, and that's what goes into each bag that we seal, so once it's sealed, it will not gain or lose moisture, because keeping that moisture level and that freshness is really important for the quality of the corn. When you heat it up, it creates steam inside of the kernel, and when that steam, the pressure just builds up and builds up and builds up, it explodes. Actually, we have tried putting it in a paper bag in a microwave.
And it will pop.
It will pop, but you don't get as good a product as you do when you do it on the stove top. Let me show you the popcorn popper. It has an agitator. This goes around the bottom of the pot to keep the corn from burning. I use coconut oil. According to the directions on the top of your Mountaineers popcorn, the label, 2 tablespoons of oil. Go ahead and take a half a cup of popcorn and put in. Okay, we're gonna light the stove and we're gonna keep it on medium high. You've got the popcorn and the oil and you can put it on there. And this little crank here turns the agitator, that little thing in the bottom. Coconut oil has a very high smoke point. In other words, it'll get very hot before it'll start smoking. Besides that, the coconut oil has a really good flavor. And when it starts popping, then I start agitating. Oh, okay. You just heard one.
Well, when we met, Joe phoned my office and asked for a date, and I had braces late in life, still had braces. And when he phoned and asked me to go to lunch, I said, could we go somewhere that makes popcorn? I just got my braces off. I haven't had popcorn in 2 years.
That was our first date.
Our first date. That was kind of kismet.